A lot of players come back not the same that they were before these injuries. So you never know. He might not be the same player as he was when he returned. He might have a bit of ring rust almost. So it is a bit of a risk, I think, taking him. But at the same time, like I said, with the depth that Wales don't have, I think he has to be on that plane.
Speaking of risks and taking risks, obviously if he can't make it on the plane, there's a spot that opens up for another player. There's a few names which have been thrown around, Christian Doidge amongst them. What sort of players do you think Ryan Giggs will be looking at if the likes of Brooks can't make that flight?
I think if Brooks can't make it, you'll definitely look for a straight creative playmaker replacement. I can't see like a striker being thrown in or a centre defensive midfielder or something like that thrown in. I think you'll be looking for a bit more creativity, because I think that's how Wales now have grown to play their football. They like to pass the ball around, attack and everything like that. It's not a case of they're a defence minded team, because they're not. So I think you'll definitely look for that. Who that player may be, I'm not sure. I think Matondo could get the call up as one of the young guns who may get a shout, but maybe it might be too soon for him. He's still young and he's still sort of in and out of the Schalke team as of late. So I think it might be a chance as well now for Morale to step up and get not just get regular game time, but he's starting every game, and because for me he's impressed when he's played the last couple of games for Wales. I think he looks a very good young prospect to have on the cards. But I think you look at it, I think the Wales squad they have without Brooks starting, with James on the wing, with Bale more up top, Ramsey and Allen just in behind in the midfield role, I think that's strong enough starting 11. So I don't think they need an instant starter. I just think they need someone with that creative spark that could come on. Someone like Johnny Williams perhaps, who won't start, but you can bring him on in the 70th minute, sort of just to run about and be busy and maybe create some chances.
And what does his arrival mean for those associated with the club?
I think it's a big thing for Barry. He's a big name. He's played in the top leagues in English football. He's played in the Premier League. He's played in Championship. He's played internationally for Wales. So in terms of Welsh football especially, he's a big name coming in. And I think he's just added a bit more of that buzz of excitement around Barry at the moment, around the club. They're still pushing for the top four. So it's just added to that extra excitement that's surrounding the club at the moment. And I think his experience and his talent will certainly be vital.
He's racked up over 400 appearances in the professional game. How important will that experience be as the club look to secure a top four finish this season?
As I said, I think it's very important. I think you look across that Barry team; they are still quite a young team relatively. So I think now bringing him in, it does add that experience. It adds that experience of being able to finish at the top as well. So it isn't just a player who's come in and he's not played too much in the Welsh Premier League, but he's played above and beyond that. And I think bringing someone of his talent is someone who's been there, done it all in terms of, like I said, playing the top leagues. He'll just add a bit more flair, a bit more of that experience, which is certainly vital when you're pushing for a top four, because every team, no matter what league you're playing in, when you're pushing for that top four, you need experience, and I think he'll certainly add that, because I feel that's maybe what Barry have been lacking. It's a strange one. I think if these friendlies were happening maybe earlier in the year, I think you could argue that he deserves to be called up, he should be called up, because it's a perfect opportunity for new players to be blooded into the Welsh setup. But I think now, because they're so close to the Euros, I think I would just take the squad that maybe Ryan Giggs plans on taking. Maybe, obviously, you'll have to trim it down a bit, but any players who he knows will be on the plane, and I think we all know there's names already on there, like Bale and Ramsey, for example. I think just take the players you plan on taking and that you know will be there. Make sure, so you give them time to gel as a team just before such an important tournament. So, like I said, earlier in the year perhaps, but right now just take the squad that you plan on using, or that you have some idea that you're going to use in the Euros.
And before we go on to the Euros, do you think the standard of the Scottish Premiership is a good level to judge him on?
I think it's improved. I think it's always difficult to say, because Celtic in themselves are above every other team in that league. Rangers are starting to push them more now under Steven Gerrard. Doidge has a great record. I think for any striker playing in any league, he's got his strike rate, I think, is something like 1 in 2 at the moment, which is brilliant for any striker. So, and he's doing good at Hibernian, who are a decent outfit in Scottish football, but yeah, it is a different league to, say, the Championship even, I think. And he saw his time at Bolton, he struggled there as well, even after a big money move from Forest Green Rovers. So I think at the moment it is difficult to judge a player on where they play, but at the same time a player can't help where they end up. If they're doing, you can only do well about where you are, and Doidge is doing well where he is. So I think you can't fault that in any way, shape or form. But Scottish League isn't the Championship for me. It isn't the Premier League. So yeah, it is hard to judge, I think, at the moment.
You're listening